Welcome to the Hibbing Economic Development Authority regular meeting agenda. Today is February 18th, 2025, 5:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have everyone in attendance with the exception of Vice President Durenas. Member Kivel is on here, but he is no longer on. Right. Member Jennifer Hoffman-Sockelman is not present now, but she will be here in just a bit. So.
Mike is gone today too.
And Mike Egan, yes, is not here. Okay, call the meeting to order. Additions, deletions, add board report number 2, G and 3, A and workshop number 3 and 4. Approval of the agenda. Can we get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk.
Support.
Supported by Member Schweiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. The first one, we will approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority for January 13th, 2025. We need a motion for that.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Member Schweiberger.
Second.
Supported by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Second one is to approve the minutes of the workshop meeting of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority for January 13th, 2025.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk.
Second.
Supported by Member Cameron. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. On to the consent agenda. Number 1, affirm the Economic Development Loan Fund as of January 31st, 2025 in the amount of $1,192,694.32. Number 2, approve the disbursements for the month of January in the amount of $616,878.16. Number 3, set the next regular meeting of Heda for Monday, March 10th, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. And number 4, set the next Heda working session for Monday, March 10th, 2025, following the regular meeting in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. Can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Member Cameron,
I'll support.
supported by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Presentations. On to Betsy Alavante.
Madam President, members of the board, tonight the first presentation is AMGS Expansion Project by Kraus Anderson. And if we have any questions, John is here as well as our owner's rep. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you. All right, tonight we're going to go through the same, let's see here. I try to keep the agenda similar month to month, so kind of for consistency. We're going to go through safety, schedule, progress, our budget status, and the contingency updates. So, safety, we had a OSHA consultation scheduled, but it was postponed and rescheduled due to weather. That'll be held on March 4th now. Still to date, no recordables, so project's going well. On the schedule, the exterior wall sheeting is nearly complete. The roof sheeting is about 25% complete. I had in your packets that it was 30% complete, but I changed that. We were anticipating some production on Saturday, and we weren't able to work. One of the next tasks that we will do is start erecting the mezzanine, and that is the steel above the offices. They've already got the steel on site, and they will start erecting that Thursday of this week. You'll see in the pictures that the canopy, the decorative canopy on the front of the building is about 90% complete. We've removed the snow from the interior of the building. The reason we did that is because next week we will start ground thaw efforts. We've got 5 ground thaw machines that'll be heating the ground, and we will what we do is they're large heaters. There's hoses on the ground that contain glycol at 180 degrees. We capture the heat with blankets and poly, and that heat will take the frost out of the ground so we can get back to work. So ground thaws will get started next week. And the week after that, we will start heat inside the building as well. Weather delays, I wanted to put that in there as part of the schedule. If you've driven by and seen progress, this kind of explains it. As of Friday, we've lost 23 days, more than a month, out on the job site due to temperatures. The rule that we use for weather is 5 degrees and lower, or wind speed of a sustained wind of 35 or more. So that's kind of where we are through last week. Questions on that?
No?
Got it. Schedule, we had a 10-month project. So we are, as of the end of January, we are 5 months through. So anticipating, you know, of the original schedule that we presented to you, we are half done. As noted, we've been impacted a month by the weather, so we'll do our best to continue to recover once we get back working. And we think that's Thursday. We think Thursday we're getting back on the roof. We'll be working Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So some progress photos. This is from the 13th Street. You can see the canopy that I mentioned in there. It's basically, the roof is on the canopy. Most of the siding is on it. There's some siding that wasn't completed last week. On the east side, you can see the canopy as well. You might notice up at the eave, there's the red flags up there. That's a warning flag for where the roofers are working. That's a safety component of their task. So that's the area where the roof is done. We've got 50 feet of the roof on so far. This is a view of the north side of the dock doors and the service door at the north end. This is mostly a view of the west side. All the siding is complete. You can see all the temporary windows coverings are in. That's just poly to contain the heat when we get heat running. This picture is the vapor barrier and fall protection. The white vapor barrier that holds the insulation up also works as fall protection for the workers up there. So they've got 3 bays of that installed, and we'll be getting back started on that Thursday. Our budget, we're 44% complete with the budget. I like the budget and the schedules to line up. They typically get a little closer when we're 50% done. We've burnt 50% of the cash. We're a little bit off on that, and it's notably because of the weather, so that'll change in a hurry now. Contingencies, we did have a few expenditures to both KA's contingency and to the owner's contingency, but you can see by the remaining balance that we're sitting somewhere around $870,000 of contingency retaining. So we're in a really good spot at this point. Any questions for me?
Would you consider your remaining balance on contingency update a good number? I mean, as far as we're about 50% into this project, our contingency was we still have about 2/3 remaining. Are we sitting good?
We're in a great spot.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
just
it's
want
a
to make sure.
great question.
Yeah.
A lot of the unknowns come out at the beginning as we're going through buyout. So we're through buyout. As the contractor, you know, a lot of the contingency that I budgeted for was not necessarily contingency. It was scope gap coverage for,
Yeah.
like, you'll remember the crane. I knew what it was gonna cost, but we didn't have a bid, so I put that
Okay.
in there. So that's a lot of our costs, a lot of the owner's costs. You know, a big one was that unforeseen abandoned concrete drain tile under the
Yeah,
building.
the
you know.
storm drain?
Storm sewer,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's stuff like that. So we're in a really good spot.
Good.
Certainly, there will be more expenditures to both sides of that equation, but when we're 50% done and we've burnt 30% of the contingency, we're in a really good spot.
Thank you.
Anything else? Great.
Madam President, before Todd steps down, I just wanted to let you all know that the project has been going really smooth from my office for sure. And that's in large part to Todd and John's management of the project. So I wanted to make sure that you all and our public heard that this project is going very well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Todd. My second item on presentations tonight is Jacob Hansen's loan request. I'll have him come up and talk a little bit about his project at this time to the podium, and then we will go through the approvals later in the docket in the agenda. Jacob, why don't you tell them which address you're working on at this time and what you're coming to the EDA board for tonight.
Yep, thanks, Betsy. So I'm working on 1920 4th Avenue East. It's 2 blocks away, just north of Howard, in between Howard and Industrial. It's I bought it a couple years ago. Shortly after I bought it, it was condemned, and so now I'm working on bringing it into code, and so I can use it again. The project is fairly substantial. Got to take off the roof and take off the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is bowing out. That's the main safety issue. Take out part of the 2nd floor, throw a new roof on. We can't save the 3rd floor, or financially it can't make sense to save the 3rd floor, I should say. And then finish the exterior, finish the interior. The storefront there is now boarded up. That'll be storefront windows and doors. Got to make the bathroom on the storefront ADA compliant. I think that's the short version of the scope of work. I guess you have any questions?
I know it's 1924th Avenue East, but is it, what building was it? Or is it like an apartment building or?
It's mixed use. It was 4 apartments and 1 storefront. I don't know what the storefront was before. It was boarded up when I got it. I got it with the intent to fix it up. It's 2 buildings. So there's the Hong Kong building, and then there's what's now the Elks Lodge, which we more or less just finished.
Yep.
And then it's the parking lot, and then it's the building I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's kind of brick on the 1 floor and then stucco white on the 2nd and 3rd floor.
Okay.
So that one, you're looking at taking the 3rd floor off,
Correct, yep.
keeping the 2nd.
Yep.
All
So
right.
it'll end up being 2 apartments and 1 storefront.
Are you looking at, is that going to be a flat roof, or are you going to be, what type of roof system will you be putting on that 2nd floor?
It'll be not flat, but it won't have a peak. It'll just go
Okay, slant.
yeah, slanted one way
Okay, straight back or towards your open lot?
towards the parking lot.
Towards the parking lot?
Yep.
Okay.
And what is the plan for it?
We'll rent out the 2 apartments. That's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
We'll renovate them. I don't know how many people ended up being able to go, but we just finished 4 apartments at the Castle, North Town. It'll be renovated to that level. And then the storefront will just be fixed up and kind of left as a blank slate, and then we'll rent it out to whoever we can find, I guess, who qualifies.
So there's 4 apartments or?
There's 4 now. We have to get rid of the top, or the 3rd floor, so it'll end up as 2 apartments.
Okay.
I know you just renovated for the Elks, of course. And you have that empty lot between you. I'm just curious how you're going to incorporate that empty lot with the Elks and what you're doing now on the north side.
Sure. Yeah, I basically gave the Elks Lodge folks first dibs. If they want to do outdoor events in the summer, bean bags or concerts, can't have it too late because I got the apartments right there, but they have first dibs. If they want to use it for their space, they can. If they don't end up wanting to use it, I'll probably just let it be parking until something better comes along, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, and the Elks, I just want to say the Elks came out very nice. I had a chance to go take a look, so.
Thanks, yeah, super happy with that. Took quite a while, but it ended up just fantastic, yeah, I'm
Yep.
super pleased.
It's a nice space.
And thank you, you guys gave me a loan for that as well, so
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that.
Madam President, Board, if I may, I also want to mention that Counselor Hoffman-Sockman and myself toured the Castle Apartments with Jacob's manager, and the work there is also top-notch and done very well. So, and that's a different construction firm doing that versus the Elks. So, you know, he does work with local contractors, and he's managing the projects well, and they're doing good work. So,
Yep, thanks, Betsy.
Does anybody else have any questions for Jacob? Regarding,
okay.
No.
So item number 3 then, thank you, Jacob.
thank you, Jacob.
Thanks.
Is the request from Jim Bugalis for the Howard Court. This is for a deferred loan. And they're going to do some roof work and HVAC, I believe. And the request, again, is a little bit, the approvals are a little bit later on in your packet.
Yep.
So Jim, why don't you just talk about the improvements you're going to be doing there?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Chad Roberts, he's our property manager, give the details of what we're gonna be doing.
Excellent,
We'll go
thanks.
from
Very good.
there. Go ahead, Chad.
So I've been managing the building for about 5 years now, and just, we found pretty early on that this roof was in some need of help. We've chased it, and eventually I actually had all the ballast rock removed to try and find what we were actually dealing with. Took core samples, and I believe we're actually looking at a 100-year-old original roof. It's a single layer felt, it's hot tar, and it's a coal tar roof, so I don't know how familiar you are, but absolutely nothing sticks to coal tar. So it's made patching, kind of just doing smaller mitigation work, very unreliable. So that's why we're kind of looking to actually get some insulation on this roof as well. Just the age of the building, they weren't really engineered for snow load. It wasn't a huge concern at the time. So part of this be, you know, in cooperation with the AOA, the Building Energy Retrofit Program, and that would be, I've already secured $20,000 through them to add some insulation to this roof as well, which will absolutely help just retain a lot of the heat and just make the building much more efficient. So, then the other portion of this would be just HVAC, just when we tear this roof off, or when we not tear it off, when we overlay this roof, get insulation on there and just kind of encapsulate this coal tar, just otherwise we'd be running into a lot of other complications. We'll be taking off a bunch of dead units that were left remaining on this roof that are not helping the static load, and getting a new unit up there. So it'd be very, very beneficial for the future of this building.
Yeah, and overall, Madam Chair, Mayor, Commissioners, this building's a historic building. It's the mainstay in downtown Hibbing. And like Chad said, what we're doing here is we're making it I guess a positive energy building at the end of the day. That's how we're getting the money from the AOA, putting the new building, or the new roof on, putting in the new HVAC. It's a very old HVAC, pieced together HVAC system in the building as well. And this is really going to help us. We're putting in, I believe, around $140,000, $150,000 into the building ourselves. We're working with Park State Bank, and contingent on that financing, this is part of it, the HEDA funding, or AOA funding, to get it done as a community effort.
I would assume, Jim, you're pulling the ballast off, you're going with a different style of roof just to take the load off of that. And I see you mentioned, you said the ballast was already removed.
Right, correct.
You know, snow load, as you mentioned, versus then and now is two different things, so.
Right.
How is the parapet around the building? Is that in good shape? It's just
It
the
is.
roof that is the issue?
Yeah, so structurally, it's in good shape.
Okay.
The building's in good shape. It's just the roof, and the roof it's not leaking, but we just had an incident this summer where the big heavy rain came,
Yeah.
and it penetrated through the roof, and that's the other thing too. We had an insurance claim, and some of the tenants got wet, right, and we had to mitigate that, and we can't really mitigate that until the roof gets fixed,
Yeah.
right, with the insurance claim. So that's another $140,000 we have holding in escrow to fix the inside of the building too, when the
Yep.
roof gets done, so. So yeah, it's structurally sound, the building has good bones in it, but, it needs a new roof and it needs new HVAC.
What's your time frame? If everything moves forward?
We want to start, in fact, we're started working in there, we're going to start working there next week with some stuff that can be done that the roof won't affect it.
Yep.
And then, as soon as spring hits, we want to hit the ground running and put the new
Okay.
roof on, right?
Very good.
And then as far as that goes, with the AOA, just having secured that funding, I think we've started a 180-day clock on that, so
Okay.
it's
You have a time frame in mind?
it is as soon as possible,
Yeah.
as soon as the weather allows.
Yeah.
And then Terry Marty, I mean, it's all local vendors, Rain
Yep.
Corners Roofing, will be doing the roof work. I think he just did this building, didn't
He did some of the work on this building.
he? Yeah, I saw his crew from our roof, but.
Yep.
Yeah, I can relate to the issues with the roof on the
Oh,
building.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, right.
not fun, and
Right.
it's really been limiting our ability to just improve the building.
That is the other thing too, guys, we're using all local contractors
Yep.
for the building, right?
Very good.
And the total that we're looking for on this then was is it 61?
429.20. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was figured after the AOA.
Yep.
Right, was- okay,
Yep.
was applied.
Right, it's in keeping with the amount and in the historic district of the downtown, these deferred loans are, why we're doing this is roofs and things like that are
Right.
hard to fund, expensive, and don't necessarily add to the value.
Well, it is, as you mentioned, Jim, it is a historic building in downtown, and it is a mainstay of that corner block.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort towards this building.
And then-
Definitely. I
I know
agree.
you
Thanks,
may
guys.
have heard from some of the tenants, just in passing, but it has taken a long time to just make any headway. We've been in communication with everybody, kind of letting them know what we're
Yep.
up against. One of the big reasons that the insurance settlement took so long was I was really, really pushing for code compliance.
Yeah,
Just some of the electrical stuff wasn't done up to a safe standard, and I just can't leave it in the walls. Just,
okay.
so,
Right.
I mean,
And we've been doing that, guys, from the beginning, since 2019, upgrading to code compliance, everything we touch in the building. So it's really been, planning ahead, moving forward as we go with every improvement in the building. And this is part of it.
Very good.
And there's quite a few tenants in there that you have.
Yeah, there's, we're at 35 or 40, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, there's-
Yeah, are
And
there
it's-
41 storefronts in there?
There's total 52 units in the building,
Okay.
51 units in the building.
Yeah.
And we're right in that 35, 40 range, yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's essential.
And they've all been very patient with us. I mean, they have stuck with us through this. It has been really awful.
Yeah, they're quality tenants for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they see the importance in the building as well, really.
Very good.
Excellent.
All
Okay,
right?
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Our next item 4, is Rich Lee's subordination request. Rich is here as well, so he can come up and talk about that request real quick. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate you being here.
Good evening. What I have going on, I have a loan request with Bell Bank out of Duluth, and they currently finance 3 of our properties in town, 2 of which have a Heda loan attached to them. We're borrowing $500,000. We've got some additional repairs and things that are being done to 2 of those buildings. They're continuing to upgrade the rest of the HVAC and things that haven't been approved. One of the buildings is the old L&M Supply, which we had a roof collapse, last spring. We've got the insurance portion of that is complete, and now we have to build out the interior spot. We've got 2 tenants that have moved in since that time, and we want to finish the rest of the inside is the purpose of what we're borrowing some of that loan. Part of it is also going for some of the other rooftops on the 3 properties. The reason this bank has all 3 properties intercollateralized, so that's why there's a larger loan that's already been in place for a few years, and we don't want to refinance that loan because it's currently at 3.9% interest, and it'd be, the new loans are in this, 7s, so. The question that came up to me was, are we going to be behind the original loan and the 500,000? The answer is yes. However, the original loan has been paid down by more than 600,000 in the 3 years since I've had that loan. So we're in no different position than we were when I got the initial loans with the city. One of the loans is on the L&M supply, and I think the balance is in the 34,000 range. I think I looked on the end of the year sheet. And then the other one is the deferred loan that was put on the Andrew Mason Lee's building, the old Wells Fargo there.
Downtown. Okay. Is that, what part of the L&M building? I mean, you have the old Trison end, or that was the newest part of that building, actually.
Yep.
I didn't know where your damage had occurred, so I was just curious.
Sure.
Is it the whole roof that is being redone, or just portions of?
No, we've had, the majority of the roof has been completed over the last year. We've got one more section that's left. That was, it's on the back side of, where the toner planets.
Yep.
So that's the section that collapsed, is a section right in there. And then it affected one other section to the left of where the old garage would have been. State Farm is in there now.
Yeah.
This last section that we have will be the entire roof will have been replaced over the last 2 years.
Okay.
And then all the rooftops have been upgraded there. And then now we're going to finish off the rest of that interior space and
All right.
divide it.
I have no other questions.
Anybody else have any questions for Rich?
All right, thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
that.
Thanks, Rich.
And then, so item 5, the 400 block redevelopment project, I wanted to give you all an update on that project. Our municipal advisor, Michaela Hewitt from Baker Tilly, and myself have met with the developer that we have a current pre-development agreement with. We have requested, per the last meeting that Michaela attended, the remainder of the pre-development financials. And at this time, I have not received them. He has indicated he will send them soon, but I did indicate to him that the exclusivity with that particular pre-development agreement will expire on February 19th, which is tomorrow. And so the EDA board would be open to accepting and having conversations with other developers on the 400 block as well at that time. So I wanted to make sure that that is public, and if there's folks in our community that do have ideas about redeveloping that block, the EDA board would be looking for good presentations on a potential development.
Very good.
All right. Item number 6 then is the Jefferson School site project. The purchase agreement was signed and executed, so the EDA is working to purchase that property. We have notified the current tenant that there will be a change in ownership there, and our relocation consultant is working with that current tenant, and that process is very smooth at this time. So all is going well there. Later on in your packet, you will see the request that I sent out from Miriam Carroll Consulting to do some project management around getting that site ready for redevelopment. So I will talk about that at the time that we're reviewing that proposal. And things are moving forward along in the right direction there. So I think we will be ready for another application to deed for a potential redevelopment of that site for the August 1st deadline. But I wanted to update you that the project, that the purchase agreement was signed. Any questions on that?
No,
Okay.
did we, Miriam, did we approve her already?
No.
That will be.
No, yep,
okay.
that's later,
Very
and I'll
good.
talk through
That's
exactly
I
what
thought
we're
was
gonna
said. I
get.
just
Yep.
want to confirm that. All right.
Yep, exactly. All right, so at that, Madam Chair, I'll hand that back to you for the next item.
Okay, we can move along to, I guess, the Finance Director, Sheena Mullner.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For you this evening, I had within your packet the updated loan balances. And I just have a few things to update you on tonight. Most everything is current and good standing. First off is that Moxie is paid through December. We're still awaiting payments on those loans for January and February. Arrowhead Motorcycle Apparel, we still have not had any communication from her to date, and I know Andy has begun drafting some of those communications to her. She did? Yep. Oh, sorry. A couple loans made loan draws. We had Iron Range Management in the last month has made a draw of $22,250. That's made the total drawn to date as $135,232.09. And then Iron Range Restaurants made a draw of $10,000. So the total drawn to date on that one is $103,838.68. And then Sunrise Bakery was Paul was in last week to sign the deferred loan documents. That'll be for that $75,000 deferred loan, so they'll be taking draws on that soon for that project. And that's really all I have to add. The monthly repayments are still about $35,000 or so. Fund cash balances as of today, we have $1,311,963. We have loans that we've approved but haven't drawn on of just under $125,000, which leaves balances in the different revolving loan funds in total of $1,187,7750. Does anyone have any questions or comments for me?
Oh, that's a good report.
No, it all looks pretty good. Do you want to move on to B or?
Item B, after Rich's presentation, I'm asking the board to consider the request to subordinate the loans at 3923 East First Avenue and then the deferred loan at 301 East Howard.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Okay, we had a motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
and we have support by Member Schweiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sheena.
Yep.
Okay, now we can move on to our next section.
Excellent. Madam President, members of the board, the first item then is the Howard Court deferred loan write-up. So eligibility within the framework of the deferred loan guidelines is investment in building renovations to enhance the lifespan, to assist business owners for the rehabilitation of commercial properties located in the city designated focus district. This overall economic benefits of the proposed project is that it will make some much needed improvements to an iconic Howard Street building to enhance its lifespan and ensure energy efficiencies by replacing the roof. The borrower has secured the necessary funding for this project from their own equity, Park State Bank, and an AEOA Burr grant as reported. This building is vibrant and a welcome fixture on Howard Street. There is no repayment necessary for this funding, and the deferred loan will be 100% forgiven on the first day of the 6th year after loan execution, providing the requirements for jobs and building improvements have been met. The location's property taxes are current. The location's utility bill is current at the time of forgiveness is requested, and those two items are also current at this time when the loan is brought to you. The borrower is the current owner of this location and is well suited to see this project through to completion. This building has been a long-standing fixture on Howard Street and is in need of this critical renovation. The collateral offered and lien position will be secured on the property behind all other lenders. This just provides a way that the building owner has to notify the EDA board if there's an intent to sell, so that we can negotiate either the repayment of the rest of the deferred loan or transfer to the next owner. And at this time, I'll stand for questions. Oh, and the amount of the deferred loan is the 61,000, it's right in front of me. 429.20. There you go. Thank you, John.
Well, I think the terms that you just mentioned are important, and we know the project because they just explained it to us and the time frame that we're looking at for completion. So having heard all that, I have no other questions and would make a motion to move forward.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Hyduk to move forward with this loan for the Howard Court. Do we have a second?
A second.
second by Member Cameron. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item B then is to consider the loan application from Jacob Hansen for 1920 4th Avenue East property. The eligibility within the framework of the revolving loan plan is it is priority 1, investment in building renovations, primarily in the downtown area, energy efficient upgrades and investment in our community by lending to a commercial entity in the downtown area and enhancing the quality of life for the Hibbing community. Overall economic benefits of the proposed project is it will make some much needed improvements to a building to ensure viability and enhance its lifespan. At this time, the building is condemned and not able to be used. This will bring it back to life. The financial statement of the borrower shows adequate wherewithal to take on and complete this project. This is the third project Mr. Hansen is requesting funding for in Hibbing. The prior 2 projects, one nearby on 4th Avenue and the Castle Apartments, are going well, and the improvements to the real estate are well done. Heda Finance Committee members and staff have toured the properties to see the investment firsthand and can see that the work quality is well worth the investment. The business and borrower's global incomes show ability to make the payments. Additionally, if anticipated rents are realized from the real estate improvements, the property income will allow for continued investment. So the staff recommended loan terms are $144,373.80 at 3% for 10 years, interest only for 6 months, or full disbursement of loan proceeds, whichever is sooner. Disbursement of loan proceeds with appropriate invoices for renovation on the subject property, as per our usual standard. Listed as an additional insured on the business insurance policy, ACH payment required, and a personal guarantee and life insurance required, because this does move the loan over our threshold of the $250,000 minimum loan requirement. So that's the staff recommendation.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion made by Member Schweiberger,
Madam Chair, I'll support.
support by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item C is a request to approve the resolution to declare the 400 block buildings substandard. So this resolution is the next step in the 400 block redevelopment project, and it has been proposed that the City of Hibbing and the EDA create one or more tax increment financing districts within the city to be designated as a redevelopment district, as defined by Minnesota State Statutes, Section 469-174, subsection 10 and 10A. And in order to create this type of district, the city and EDA must make determination that before demolition or removal of any substandard buildings, certain conditions existed. We have done the necessary investigation, received the report from LHB Architects, and now it is time to take this next step to declare these buildings substandard and find that the parcels are occupied by structurally substandard buildings.
Betsy, when you say the 400 block, we're talking about just the 2 buildings right now.
Exhibit A lists the parcels,
Okay.
and they are, 402 was included in the report, but not necessarily included in any demolition. It might be included in some kind of redevelopment. We don't have any interest in that building as of yet. But this will include 410, 412, and 416.
402 is
The Teskey
Teskey.
building.
Okay, very good.
So Exhibit A includes all of the buildings on that block this
Yep.
time.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to declare 400 block building substandard.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by Member Hoffman Sockman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item D is a request to approve staff to go out for bids to demo the 400 block buildings listed as 408 through 416 East Howard Street.
Pretty
Madam
straightforward.
President.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Madam
Go ahead.
President, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion made by Member Hoffman Sockman,
Full support.
supported by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. On to E.
All right, so this item is a request to work with Miriam Carroll Consulting for the 2025 Local Housing Trust Fund grant application. So there is an opportunity for us to match the $150,000 that the EDA has put into the Local Housing Trust Fund, which was created with city ordinance in February of 2024. I think it was February of last year. And the intended use is to have her write that grant for us. She has been successful in past grant writing opportunities. And so the request today is to approve the proposal for $3,862.50.
What was that amount again?
$3,862.50.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion made by Member Schreiberger,
Support.
supported by Member Cameron. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
All right, item F tonight then is the proposal for project management and grant writing on the Jefferson School site. So you'll remember in the past when we started the 400 block redevelopment project to consider our options on that. We hired Streeter Consulting to work with us on that project, and then Miriam Carroll assisted with the grant writing and secured the $407,000 from deed necessary to take those buildings down. So I have worked with Miriam to come up with a much more economical solution to that. In the amount of $10,300, she will do both project management and the grant writing. In the past, those two items cost us $16,580. So we will be saving money by consolidating those services into one consulting service. And she has been successful securing funding for us on these projects. So I would request at this time that that service proposal be approved.
Do we have a motion to approve the proposal with Miriam Carroll for the Jefferson Schools?
Well, I'll make a motion, Madam Chair.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
I support.
supported by Member Cameron. Is there any further discussion?
I just have you said Bob Streeter, we were working with him on that project,
On the 400 block.
on the 400.
Not on this one.
Okay. And we were working with Bob Streeter up on Highland Hills.
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to make sure Miriam has the experience that you're looking for, and it sounds like you're comfortable with that.
Yes.
That's why I made the motion, but I just want to confirm that.
Yeah, what I'm asking her to do is go out and gather the quotes for the boundary, the topo, the, all of the various contractors that we have to go out and get two quotes from to make
Yeah.
sure that we have project funding secured necessary for this redevelopment. I'm not asking her to plat or do any
Right.
kind of specifics around the housing portion.
Yep.
Or any rezoning, those sorts of things. Just handle the project management to secure all of the necessary contractors and bring back to the EDA board at a subsequent meeting, probably in April. This is what all of the quotes look like. These are the contractors, and then have you approve those funds, you know, subsequent.
Okay.
And then go forward from there. So yeah, it's just the project management and the grant writing, not actual, you know, the development and those sorts of things.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
No other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Fabulous. And Mr. Workla, do we have Betsy Michaels on? Can you hear us, Betsy?
Hello. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So Betsy Michaels
Wonderful.
works for Trellis Corporation, Trellis, and was planning to be here in person and then had some car difficulties. So she ended up having to head back home and take care of car situation instead of being here in person. But she wanted to, or I asked her to attend tonight because they are asking for us to modify the resolution 2023-0504, which stated that the EDA would forgive the $400,000 from the EDA loan to the original project at the Android as our local match to the project when they secured, or when they were applying for all of the rest of the state funding. They have been successful in securing the rest of the state funding, and as they worked through the legal and technical aspects of the project financials, they recognized that clearing the $400,000 after the project was completed would cause some financial hurdles. So I asked Betsy here today to explain all of those, the situation to you, so that we can consider the potential of modifying that resolution.
Okay.
Betsy, if you'll go ahead.
Sure. And it gets into, I'll get into some kind of tax complications, which, and I am not a tax expert. I have consulted with our accountant, who is a tax expert, and that's where these numbers are coming from. So if there are more detailed questions, I will have to, I may have to reach back out to them. But to begin, just wanted to quickly explain the financing that we secured for the project. The main financing mechanism that we are using for the Android project is the low-income housing tax credit. We receive a low-income housing tax credit for each dollar that we spend on the project that is considered eligible basis. With that tax credit, we turn it around and sell it to an investor. Right now, the pricing that we have received per tax credit is 82 cents, or 82 cents. I'm sorry, was there a question?
No.
Oh, sorry. So if the loan is forgiven after the financial closing of the project, which is, at or before the start of construction, it will be treated as a grant and will decrease our LIHTC or low-income housing tax credit eligible basis by $400,000. To do the math, with our per credit pricing that we're receiving from the investor, that would reduce our investment proceeds by $237,481. So that would be a reduction in our other financing source. Additionally, the $400,000 would be capped because it would essentially be considered a cash income source. The tax burden that it would cause or create for the new ownership entity would be approximately $123,200, using a 21% tax rate for federal and 9.8% for Minnesota taxes. If we are able to have the loan forgiven prior to the construction start and the financial closing, we will not see a reduction in our eligible basis, and the loan forgiveness will go toward Trellis, which is a nonprofit, as the owner, rather than the post-construction closing owner, which is a for-profit entity. Trellis does not have the same tax burden, so we won't be impacted the same way. So I just first wanted to say thank you for your support in the project so far. And I also just wanted to reaffirm Trellis's commitment to the project. As Betsy mentioned, we received the funding award that we had planned to prior to the loan forgiveness was agreed on. And we have also invested over $450,000 into the project so far. So with that, we would like to request that the loan be forgiven prior to that sale from Trellis, the nonprofit, to the new ownership entity, which will be a for-profit. So I will pause there for any questions.
Madam President? I have a question. Sheena, what are your thoughts on this?
I guess it kind of raises some questions, I guess. I don't know. I guess so for the nonprofit, then you wouldn't pay taxes because that would be, the deal would be done under that status, right? And then at the closing, it would be a for-profit company, so it's kind of like we're changing the taxes by doing it early, I guess. The other piece, I guess, is your request that you would be wanting us to partially satisfy the mortgage on there, because there is still a balance then that would be due in the resolution that we had. We only forgave the $400,000 of the amount, not the remainder. So I guess what would the timeline be for paying back the rest?
So the timeline for paying back the remainder would be, it would happen along financial closing. Right now, that is scheduled to be on or around May 1st. So that's when the remainder would be paid back, and that we would request that a satisfaction of the mortgage be issued. Prior to that, the mortgage can remain in place, and the partial forgiveness could just be done without the satisfaction. As far as the nonprofit versus for-profit structure, that is, the for-profit structure is just the way that all of these tax credit entities are required to be set up. And right now, because we don't have a tax credit investor, that's just not how the ownership is currently structured. I could get into more technical. Would want to refer back to council.
Madam President, members of the board, if I may, she keeps kind of cutting out there a little bit, and there's also a little bit of a ringing going on. So a couple of items. One, our resolution, the one that I referred to, 230504, had two conditions. One, that the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency funding is secured, which it was, so they've satisfied that condition. The second condition was the proposed $11 million investment by the Android Limited Partnership into the Android property is completed. So that particular part of the resolution would be the one that we'd have to modify. The structure of how Minnesota Housing Finance Agency does the financing for these projects is that when they work with nonprofit owners of buildings, they allow them this tax credit to get investment into the project. So they grant a tax credit to the project, who then has to syndicate and sell it out on the open market. So that's the for-profit investor that she's talking about that will invest into this project. And they have to create a limited partnership in order for that particular part to happen. Jackie also has that on the HRA's project. It's the same sort of funding that Trellis got for this project. So when they get the financing, the state doesn't finance it all. They allow them to have a tax credit of up to so much, which you syndicate on the private market to an investor, who then gives you cash by buying that tax credit for their profits as a for-profit entity on their own tax returns. Does that make sense? It's very involved, I know, but.
So we're technically, we're changing the plan from what we originally talked about.
Correct. So we'd be modifying the proposed $11 million investment is completed to the $11 million investment project financing that we would close on, that we would defer ours or forgive ours right before they close on their project financing. and then they'd be underway. You can ask for additional reports as they go along with their project, and a tour of the property, et cetera. Those would be other ways to ensure that the investment is happening, but I've been working very closely with Betsy and her team as they've gone along on getting this all set up, and they've been extremely forthcoming with all information that I've requested. Additionally, when we requested, or when we wrote the application for the deed Main Street Revitalization grant, which we still haven't found out about, even though it was supposed to come back in January, they were extremely helpful and welcoming on that project as well. So they've been a great partner in town on this particular project, and I do think that this is recommended.
I guess the one thing you mentioned that I would like to see is progress updates, no different than what we get from AMGS, so that we know how this project's moving forward, and even if we had a couple during that process, open houses, just to take a look at where the progress. But also, I'd like to see what their before that even happens, what is their plan? What is being intended on being repaired and done? I'd just like to see that in more of a written form.
Absolutely.
You know, and I know it's an important project and it's an important building within our community, of course. But I think that would make me feel good about going before rather than after with the 400.
Sure.
I
Yep.
agree, Mayor.
Excellent. I know that Betsy, now that they've put everything together, that they would have a much better
Right.
project plan and things, and could bring something before you. And I did hear her say that they're gonna close honor before May 1st.
Yes.
We do have a couple more meetings between now and then. If you would be comfortable deferring the decision to the March 10th meeting, I think that might be okay. I can't see Betsy on the, is she still there, Ron?
Yeah, that would work for us.
Okay.
I can hopefully attend that one in person as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent.
Okay,
Yeah, I personally would feel much more comfortable that way.
Yep,
yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, and then in the interim, I can always send on more of I can send both design documents, but also narrative information on our scope of work and the schedule. Is there anything else? Our contractor, architect, resumes, all of that stuff I can send over in the interim.
Yeah, I don't think we probably need the resumes, because you're working with Frericks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that contractor, and then, yeah, just the names and your critical vendors, et cetera, that would be great, Betsy, thank you.
Thank you, Betsy.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and then,
Yes.
yes, we'll invite her back to the March 10th, and we can go into it.
Yeah, we can add it at that
Appreciate
time
that.
again. Yep.
Yep.
Could you also, Betsy, consider bringing this to the city council? Because I know that there was a lot of discussion, if I remember correctly, with the Android at the time, with all the council members as well. Or
Just
can
an
you
update at-
Just an update of
at
where we are
workshop?
on this.
Yeah.
That might be helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Betsy.
Excellent. All right.
Number 3,
Thank you.
Andy Borland.
Madam President, members of the commission, within your packet, I think it was a late ad, there was our office prepared a business subsidy agreement with respect to Mr. Hansen's request, and it's nothing against him. It's the size of the loan here we're talking about. It's over the threshold whereby this is considered a business subsidy. And so taking the information that Betsy had in the presentation and the information that Mr. Hansen provided, I crafted a business subsidy agreement. In other words, there's some reporting that we need to do with respect to this, to the state based on the size of the loan. So the subsidy agreement kind of sets up the criteria that, in fact, he does meet the criteria that the project that he's proposing meets the criteria that we have for business subsidies in Hibbing. But in order to grant a loan of this size, we have to enter into a business subsidy agreement with Mr. Hansen and his entity. And that's what's here for your consideration this evening.
Very good. Well, hearing what Mr. Borland had to say, I would make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Hyduk, supported by Member Hoffman-Suckerman. Is there any further discussion on this?
Madam President, if I could just say, this doesn't create any extra obligations really upon Mr. Hanson. It's simply to recognize the loan documents that will be drafted and subsequent to this, and that he'll have an obligation to that, and why we're granting him this size of a loan. That's really the information that we're trying to convey to the state.
Okay. As well as the, Madam President, if I may, as well as the demo grant in 91,000 and the AEOA BRR grant and DVR. So all of those combined make it necessary.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, we have a motion, a second, no other further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Andy. And now that's, comes to a close, our,
Well, Madam Chair, so in light of City Council handling the workshop as a different way, I guess, I'm not even exactly sure how to explain this, but my thoughts are, instead of closing one meeting and then opening another meeting and all of those things, that we could just have discussion items at the end. So you will see that I've got 4 different items and then miscellaneous roundtable. So that you can see, I want to realign the EDA agenda with how you would like to see these projects coming forward. So you don't need to adjourn until the end of the workshop or discussion items. We're gonna try a thing and see how it works, and then we'll just go from there. How about that?
Very good.
okay?
But again, there'll be no
No motions.
motions or anything
No,
taken.
no, this
Got
is
it.
just discussion.
Yep.
And so you'll notice I added decision items up under board reports, and then this just says discussion and updates, that there's no motions and no further action to be taken. So if we talk this through fairly briefly, the traffic and parking study, that one is going forward with Jesse. We have a couple of RFPs to review, and we will go forward with selection at our March meeting as planned. The North Hibbing Survey Project update, we discussed that at the last meeting. This is north of Brooklyn on the EDA-owned property. I talked with Attorney Borland. We have a plan. I have reached out to the individual at T&B Automotive who is asking for a little additional land in that particular location. There are also some residents who are utilizing land that is owned by the EDA. So we have to notify those particular residents that that is not necessarily land that can be used in that fashion. Is it necessarily an order of trespass, Andy, that we will be sending, or just a letter?
I think at this point in time, assuming that Heda wants to proceed in that same, we just craft a letter to say, please remove your stuff from from the premises because you don't own the land, and see what kind of response we get if they comply with that, versus saying you're trespassing and so forth. That's technically, yes, they are, but the city hasn't done anything, or Heda hasn't done anything to them to this point in time, so it's pleased to ask them to vacate the property that is theirs, and see what kind of cooperation I think Heda gets doing that.
I do have a picture in my office of the land and the ones that are being utilized.
So with that letter, they're gonna be like a potential purchase option for them, or if it's something that they're interested, like you're doing with T&B, the automotive?
That's a good question. In the past, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the EDA only allowed for 50 feet on the other side of the alley. They are probably using an acre each, roughly.
John, they're substantially back further than 50 feet. Some of the work, I don't know if that's a tactful way of putting it, or some of the settlements, tenements, whatever you want to say, they're a lot further to the west, I think it is, than
North.
my logistics are wrong, but they're a lot further back off the street than the 50-foot strips that were allocated that. So I think maybe and I think it's good to have a discussion, you should all see the map maybe at the next workshop or something.
I can go get it and you can look at it now.
Just to see how far that goes back.
Yeah,
So
let's
it's,
see it.
Yep.
So I understand that this is for the North Hibbing Survey, but don't we have other places in their city that this is happening as well?
Yeah, 8th Avenue.
Yes, thank you for
Avenue
saying
East is
that.
one, yeah.
Yes,
So the reason why this one's here is Heda owns this property, not the city. This property is owned by Heda, and therefore, that's why it's discussion for your board right now. I get it that there might be other issues like that.
Right.
But we're trying to address this particular one. While Betsy's out of the room, when she and I were talking about this last week, I reached out to Pat Green because I was concerned that if we did sell or gift, whatever you want to say, 2 or 3 of these pieces, would we need to be going back in front of the planning commission for approval of a parcel
that's
split?
about 50
Because
feet
it
right
would
there.
turn into potentially more parcels. And I think Tina shared with me
This is all
late
being
last
used?
week that in fact, the city passed a
No one's ever
resolution
bought
back
one
in
for 60 years.
2003 with regard to these particular parcels,
Pretty common thing.
saying that it was okay to subdivide those pieces without necessarily running afoul of the planning commission. So that had already been addressed. I just didn't have any recollection of it. So that part wouldn't be the issue. But I think you all looking at that map and getting some appreciation how big the pieces are
How
that
vast, yeah.
they might be getting is a good way of saying it.
Right. Right, and so while we're looking at this and have received notification and awareness, you know, the question is, how would you like to address this?
It's pretty common. I mean,
It seems like an excessive amount
yeah.
of borrowed property.
Well, and you'll notice there's fire pits and things on those, right? So that becomes liability for the city,
Yes, definitely.
so.
So that's 50 feet, and that's how far back some have gone, probably 150.
So how do they determine who gets to use that space?
Well, so they can purchase the 50 feet.
No, but, I mean, the houses are all lined up, right? So how do you know,
Right,
like?
yep, yeah, you have to be directly adjacent across the alley is the only lot that you can purchase. So if you own 2 or 3 lots across the alley, then you can purchase 2 or 3 50-foot sections.
So do we have to have them appraised then? How are we gonna do that? Yeah,
Well,
how much is it
so
gonna-
the work that we undertook about a year ago was to allocate additional of those 50-foot sections and contact the local homeowners who maybe have purchased those houses since those lots were up for sale and see if the new owners wanted to purchase the 50-foot section. While we were doing that work, we noticed then that there are folks who are using much more than the 50-foot section. So on the one hand, we wanted to ask you how you wanted us to address the additional land, and then yes, to continue working with the homeowners that haven't had a chance to purchase their 50-foot section, to work with all of them and, you know, section them off again.
Betsy, I asked, what is your plan for that property? I mean, you know, to ask, how do we want to approach it with the residents? How do we want to approach it from our point of view? What is our long-term plans for that Heda property?
Okay, so in between the alley and that Masabi Trail is, you know, sort of this open section, correct?
Yep.
On the other side of that is the section that we've designated for the potential solar farm.
Yep.
So we do have, you know, options of what we're doing with that land. Not that I think we're going to be building buildings on the other side of those, you know, particular homes, because it's an open zone roughly in between the neighborhood
trail.
of Brooklyn and the mine pits and
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
So north of the bike trail is where the solar farm we had talked about, and south of the bike trail is a property we're looking at right now between the homes, the alleyway,
correct.
and the bike trail.
Yeah.
Okay.
How far, rough guess, is that distance from the homes to the bike trail in yards, if you could do that?
So
have a scale
when
on
we
that.
looked at that, it was roughly a 40-acre section there, and 20 acres roughly is north of the bike trail and 20
Okay,
acres
so
is
20
south.
acres, yeah.
So you were gonna write a letter, Andy, to the homeowners or the landowners?
We
that
were, if that's how you guys would like us to proceed, is to say, please, you know what, you don't own this land, he owns this land, would you please remove your personal property from the premises? That was the general idea of the letter. If you guys don't want us to go in that direction, you wanna say, well, you got your stuff here, we're gonna charge you or charge you rent, or you gotta buy it or lose it. That's what we're looking for, some direction, I guess, from the board.
But we're looking at the first 50 feet being a for sure thing.
If they want to, yeah,
Yeah, because some have 50
to
feet.
buy it. Right.
And then it's beyond that, what do we want to do with the property?
Do they have an option of buying the rest of the land that they're using for those that are? No.
Not at this time because it hasn't been platted such. And the Planning and Zoning Commission would then require us to come back and do additional work, correct?
We'd at least have to subdivide those parcels, right? They'd allow us to do it to as many as we want because of the resolution they passed 20 years ago when they did these 50-foot pieces. But we would have to go back to them, and then you're probably going to incur some survey because, as you can tell by the way these are built, they're not all this uniform size, so.
Well, I think it would be a lot easier for them to, if they would be able to purchase it, other than, you know, taking their stuff off of it, or, you know, I mean.
I don't know.
Just for rough estimate and numbers, working on the Tyler Pippo, you know, the T&B Automotive, when he approached us because H.E. Domics had their entire fence in that property prior to him purchasing, he recognized he didn't own it, he approached us. Getting that work done has been about $9,000 to section that particular parcel out.
Yeah, that's pretty expensive.
That is.
Yeah, for what they're getting. for
Right,
what-
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't see people doing
I
that.
don't
No.
see them doing that either.
Our path forward with T&B Automotive is to request that he purchase it before we do register this land survey.
Yeah,
And he's going to have to pay for the costs that we've incurred, because that was the agreement we had in the development agreement with him.
okay.
And how big of a
But yes, every
section-
other homeowner, excuse me?
And how big of a section was it that T&B had?
It's a little over an acre, that, it's on that picture as well.
It was the bigger squared out area,
Okay, yep, I
Sherry.
saw that one.
Yeah.
And he has been a good actor with us, working
Mhm.
through that process.
Okay.
So we didn't give you any direction yet then?
Well, there was
Not yet.
for discussion. I guess, I don't have any direction right now from my point of view.
Yeah, so something for you to
Just let
consider.
them,
Yeah, I would think you gotta reach out to the people that are using up an extra acre of land and having fires and, you know, whatever else. I mean, I think that should be addressed as much as,
I think they should be
They
aware.
won't
They
be.
should be aware of it.
Yeah.
So with the board's approval, then I'll craft a letter. I'll make sure Betsy sees it and says it's okay to say essentially, you don't own this land and you're using far beyond the authority that Heda has to sell you the land right now. If you want to buy a 50-foot strip, that's fine, but you are going to have to take steps to get your other stuff off the property. If you have any questions, please reach out to Betsy to see if they want to get into negotiations or something else.
Yeah.
And just see,
Yeah.
and then she can report back to you
Yeah.
at the next meeting maybe as to what we
think-
learned, if anything, after that.
Yeah, I think that's good.
So had T&B, or is that what it was, T?
Yeah, TBI.
Had they not got involved in this discussion, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Well,
Because we would have never identified the issues that we have beyond that alleyway and that 50 feet.
Probably not unless Betsy had been other development options in that
Yeah.
area with the solar farm and so forth.
yeah, part of that was, you know, brought this to our attention, but also, Pat Green had talked about it. So this isn't the first time that we've, you know, become aware of it. It's just the first
Okay.
time I can show you a picture.
All right.
So we've been taking steps to understand what's happening there and bring you a more cohesive picture instead of just some thoughts.
And I would assume Pat would come to you if he notices it any place else in the community, correct?
If the EDA owns the land.
Right, if the EDA
Yeah.
owns the
Well,
land. Or even,
the property by the old tower run, by the Cobb Cook, that we've had those issues there. We've been dealing with one individual, they're piling wood on city right-of-ways. I mean, it's happening everywhere. I mean, there's buildings on city right-of-ways in Greenhaven that when we had to do work, we had to have them pull their buildings off because they all take ownership over these right-of-ways. They start mowing them, maintaining them, make them look, hey, that's a great place to put a shed. And that's a right-of-way that we gotta get into. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere throughout the city.
okay,
Just on what the city owns and what the
Yep.
EDA owns.
right.
Correct. So the ones that come before you are the ones that the EDA.
Yes,
reviews.
right.
Thank you.
Excellent, okay. Item number 3 is the EDA board training. I'm gonna work with Andy to have training for the next meeting, because we have a couple members that we're missing tonight, and I wanna make sure that everybody has an opportunity to go through the training, so.
And I apologize because I could have brought it tonight, but I'll have a packet of, and mostly this is about the open meeting law.
Yep.
Member Cameron, more for you because these guys should have seen it a few times before, but just what the open meeting law is, what you're allowed to do and what you can't do, the do's and don'ts, so to speak, for the most part. That's what my presentation is about. So I'll have that packet.
Yep.
I'll share it with Betsy. She can put it right in the packet for the next meeting.
Right, and then we'll go through the bylaws, remind everyone, you know, what our bylaws say, those sorts of things, whose term is where and when they're expiring, that sort of thing. So that everybody just gets a lay of the land once a year. And then finally, I want to talk through the Heda agenda and workshops. So my intent is to kind of condense these so that when we get back to live, Ron doesn't have to stop one, you know, presentation and go into a next while we pause and those sorts of things. But also I wanted to go back and revisit the presentations and things. It's starting to seem a little bit clunky as we work through the agenda, so I wanted to get your input on that. My thoughts are that the AMGS project, that is a definite presentation, and a quick little update at the beginning of the meeting works fine, right? Same with the redevelopment project, maybe, as we start to work with contractors or consultants and things and move projects and big, large things forward, it would make sense to put a presentation at the beginning of the agenda. My questions are these loan requests and things, because we used to do them separately at a workshop and then bring them to the next meeting, but we don't have a workshop, you know, every 2 weeks now. What are your thoughts on condensing the decision items with those particular loan requests?
Like make the motion right after the presentation or something?
Does the few minutes in between buy you some time for consideration and additional questions, or would you want that as a presentation and a staff recommendation and the vote right after?
I think having a little bit of time to process,
Yep.
you know, what they say
Yeah.
is beneficial.
Okay.
I like the
So keeping it
presentation.
like that?
I'll use tonight's meeting, for example. I like listening to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Then coming down to, you know, we listened to Sheena, gave us a little break.
Yep.
And then listening to your follow-up and looking for approval. I like the break, and I like to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
do. I think I learned something from everybody that spoke up here tonight, and
Yeah, I think I like it the way that it is.
Perfect.
I
I
mean-
like to have that enough time for them to present,
yeah.
and those sorts of things, so I really do, I've enjoyed having it this way, I just needed to make sure that it was all still okay with you. Okay, excellent. So we'll continue that way then. And then with having just this roundtable discussion at the end, how do you want to handle some just more discussionary or just sort of updates and presentations? Do you want to call it a workshop at the end? Do you want to just call it, you know, additional items for discussion? Or do you want to have 2 separate meetings, regular, adjourn, and then open a workshop and then adjourn that as well?
We never used to, I mean, our HEDA meetings are broadcast, our workshops were not.
Correct.
So I have no problem with this. I like just getting through this and going right from our HEDA to a workshop. It's very similar to what we're doing with
I
city.
was kind of caught off
with
guard
their
there. I'm like,
council.
Yeah, I know. And this one, because it wasn't going out live, I'm like, well, let's just try it. See how it goes.
yeah, I agree with the mayor, yeah.
Okay. Celia, John, any?
Nope, I agree.
Yeah.
All right,
Just
perfect.
continue right on into the workshop.
Yes, so then I have come to the end of my agenda items, Madam President.
So we move into the miscellaneous roundtable, of course, and Betsy is done.
Yep.
Mr. Schweiberger?
I'm done.
I have nothing, Madam Chair.
Jennifer?
Just one little reminder, if that in the future we can have the dollar amounts associated
Yes.
with the,
I only said them out loud and I was, yes.
Transparency.
Yes, I think that's
Thank you.
very important, instead of trying to go back and look
Yeah.
and see what it, how much it was, and yes.
That's why
very
we
good.
asked a couple times.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Thank
Very,
you.
very good idea, Jennifer, thank you for that.
Nothing.
Sheena?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Mr. Borland?
I'm hoping that the complaint then will be served out on the Arrowhead, the motorcycle group. We'll get, there's no more letters, it'll be a summons and complaint initiating
Yeah.
action. Just so you guys are aware. Between now and the next meeting, should be served out on them or attempted to serve on them. And I'll just give you an update at that point in time. We were working on items actually tied to Trellis. Betsy had gotten some information from Trellis last week. So Sheena and I and Betsy have been discussing some information that Trellis wanted to asking if we would remove or tweak things that are more related to the title and also the improvements that they're making over there. One of the questions I think was, so the air conditioning units and some other things that are along the alley, back in 1993, the city granted them an easement for those things to overhang, so to speak, into the public alleyway behind on the south side of the Android. I think Trellis some of their improvements are gonna, I think, to renovate those, and they were concerned whether or not they need the HEDA's approval. And I'll just tell you that and I left a phone message for Betsy, but my review of that would indicate, I don't think they need our approval to do them, but the easement does give the city the right, and HEDA the right to observe and overview and make sure they're not overstepping, but I don't think they necessarily have to present their plans to say HEDA and or PAT to get approval to do it. But that's one of the things that we've been working through with Trellis, and then there was some information about another agreement, and Betsy and Sheena and I just have to probably talk through that one a little bit more as to exactly, based on your vote tonight, what we're doing with that.
Yeah, that was the development agreement that was originally signed between the EDA and the group at the time.
Yeah, that contractor agreement, separate from the mortgage and note, right?
Right.
So,
So they said that they thought maybe it had been substantially, completed a while back, and would we agree to that? So we just haven't had a chance to really look it through and make sure and dot all the i's and cross the t's. We'll bring a recommendation back to the next meeting.
All right,
Nothing else.
Okay, all right.
I'll make a motion for adjournment.
Then we have a motion to adjourn made by Mayor Haidu,
Support.
supported by Member Schweberger. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
All opposed? Motion carries.